Are you ready? It is time for KMB Talk.
Hello and welcome everyone to another episode of KMB Talk. On the phone with us right now, Dr. Narketa Spartman Key. Dr. Key, how are you doing today?
I'm great. I'm happy to be here.
Oh, I'm happy to be here as well. We've been laughing pretty hard for the few moments before the show, so I told myself not to continue laughing, but I think I still am just a little bit. And that's all right. Laughter's good for the soul, right?
I agree.
Absolutely. Dr. Key, so sometimes it's a talk show about leaders, and I talk to leaders, and I would say the bulk of the time when I'm approaching a leader to request them to come on the show, or if they request to come on the show, almost every time immediately I have an idea of what I want to discuss with them. And I remember getting a recommendation to speak with Dr. Key, and you know what? It's time for old KMB to do some research and see who Dr. Key is. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Published researcher. Professor of Human Services, award-winning international speaker, global health and human services expert, human services board certified practitioner. There's a lot happening in Dr. Key's world.
Yes, it is.
and speaking of in your world, around the world too. I mean, I see you're speaking in Jamaica, in a few days?
Yes, I leave on Friday. I work with girls who are pregnant and need some help with self-esteem development.
Oh, how important of a topic is that? Listen, I have a 12-year-old daughter. I may have to give you a call separately and ask some questions, right? Because we're in this, I'm 43, and when I was growing up, granted, I had probably similar self-esteem issues to what a lot of my peers at that time had. But now, so I have a 23-year-old son, and he barely missed the cutoff on this, but I also have a 10-year-old son and a 12-year-old daughter. And to me, I almost feel sorry for them having to be raised in this social media environment. It seems to be there's so much competition. The whole quest for perfection, which you and I both know is not realistic, but it seems to put more pressure on them from a self-esteem perspective. Mm-hmm. Is that something that you're seeing?
Yes, they have a lot of pressures. You wouldn't realize the things that impact kids these days. Social media was so good when we got it, right?
Yes.
But that also brings a whole nother layer of pressures.
And bullying and
yes.
Clicks.
Yes.
Now the classroom click expands to the social media click, and oh man.
Yes.
So you're going to Jamaica, and that to help young ladies with self-esteem. I applaud you. Do you have extra room in that bag? I'm about 6'1". Right. I'm about 6'1", 6'2", 200, but I can get small if I need to fit into a bag to go to Jamaica.
I can't afford to charge. They charge over 50 pounds. It's pretty hefty.
I need to lose some weight and start. You need some security or something. And I also saw Germany, and I saw Costa Rica, Canada, Ireland, and I mean, come on now. Dr. Key's from Detroit, now out there in Virginia, and obviously you're across the U.S. as well, just trying to spread a positive message and help. And we need help. So the last time we spoke, so I'm doing the research, and I'm thinking, what do I want to talk to Dr. Key about? So I reach out and I say, listen, I think the first thing we need to do is get on a phone call and just let me ask you a few questions and see if I can shape something that I can really get excited about. Because, I mean, pick a topic. We've got 3 months worth of material just with Dr. Key alone, depending on what we're talking about. Mm-hmm. I could grab one journal and that's a show. And I remember, so I was in the music studio, if you remember, right? And my wife was putting the final mix with the engineers on her most recent track, and you plan to go in for an hour, and it ends up being 4 hours, and then all of a sudden I'm there, and my phone rings, and it's Dr. Key, and I step outside, And we get to know one another, and then it became pretty clear, I think, to both of us pretty quickly what we really wanted to talk about. So let's get straight to it, okay? I want to talk about suicide prevention. You
Yes.
are a suicide expert,
Yes.
specifically adolescent suicide expert. I'll try not to get emotional. I got a little emotional on a recent show with the Gold Star mother, and you know what? I don't care. If my emotions hit, this is it. It's real. So,
Yes.
my wife is a professional musician, professional singer, and I am an amateur musician, and I'm definitely not a singer. It's pretty bad. Dr. Key is pretty bad, but I'm an amateur, and I'm a big music fan. So, to me, I can't get past this. It seems that every time I get on Twitter, there is a news report of someone has committed suicide. And
Yes.
I find myself thinking, I remember when Robin Williams committed suicide. And to me, it just didn't make sense. He seemed to be such a larger than life, charismatic individual and human. And that's not, we're losing people. We're losing kids. We're losing adults. I'm a former Marine. We're losing veterans.
Marines.
I mean, my father was a Vietnam vet, and I remember reading recently that we have lost more Vietnam veterans from suicide than what we actually lost in the war. I mean, whether or not that is true, the resource definitely indicates that true. But even if it's not, that's a massive number of human beings that are taking their own life. So it's not just musicians, and it's not just veterans, and it's not just this ethnicity or this social, standing or any of the demographic, any of the demographic categories that we could really hone in. Again, you're the expert. You could easily tell me, here are the statistics that we're seeing for females between 5 and 12 years old, and here's what we're seeing and why. And I want to back up, for the sake of this call, away from all of that. And here's why: because one, it's fluid. Okay, it's a wide, it's fluid, and it's such a wide spectrum that we need to talk about suicide prevention. Here are a few questions, okay? And I don't script, that. These aren't prepared.
Yes.
And I was talking to my wife before the show, actually. I mean, obviously I talk to my wife all the time, but I was talking to her about the show before the show, and it was either yesterday or the day before that it was either her or I that read the singer of this group called Prodigy recently killed himself. Like, oh my gosh, are you serious? And what follows in that is now people from, and let's use music, from that industry are now sharing messages. If you or someone that you know needs help, call this number. And it occurred to me, one, I don't know how to get that number unless it passes by me on my feed. I don't know where I can go to the internet and find that number that everyone has. And that tells me that if I am contemplating suicide, I'm probably not thinking of doing a Google search, okay? So is there a suicide 911? Let's start out of the gate. If you or someone that you know is contemplating suicide, who do they contact?
1-800-273-TALK.
1-800-273-TALK. Okay, thank you. Now, they call 1-800-273-TALK. What can they reasonably expect next?
A person that answers the phone is going to be a trained person. She's going to be trained to answer that phone. So she's going to know how to address you and how to discuss what's going on.
Okay.
And some of the things she's going to be looking for is, do you have a plan? Like, are you contemplating it right now? Are you in the middle of the act and you
Okay.
called for help?
Okay.
Because that tells her that you're in a crisis situation.
Okay.
Or are you a person that has had these thoughts and these thoughts have been lingering? You don't have a plan, but you know these thoughts are something that's not normal for you, and you don't know what to do. So you're calling this crisis line. And the person behind the call is going to be very empathetic. She's going to talk to you about your feelings. She is going to be seeking information from you about how you feel, why you feel the way you feel, to try to assist you and provide you with other resources. So
Okay.
if you're in a state of crisis, meaning you have a plan, you're in the middle of the act, she's going to be trying to get you help right away.
Okay.
At that point, she may dispatch
Emergency services.
emergency people
Okay.
to
Okay.
come straight to you. But if you are a person who's having these thoughts, she's going to sit there and talk with you. She's going to be empathetic. She's going to give you resources. She's going to tell you how you can get help. She's going to ask, can she follow up with you?
Okay.
You know, she's going to try to maintain a relationship with you so that you can get the help you need so that you don't have those kind of thoughts.
In your opinion, if that call could be made, by what percentage would we reduce suicide?
I'm not sure how we can reduce it, but I think that if we could understand that this call is the start of getting some mental health wellness,
Okay.
I think that we can make a major impact.
Okay.
You know, and you can, even if you don't have a phone or you don't want to talk to someone, you can do this online. You can put in, you know, online, I've been thinking about this. Just go to, you know, Suicide Prevention Lifeline, and you can put it online that this is what I've been thinking about and I didn't feel comfortable calling. And you're going to get that same kind of trained person
Okay.
that's going to be empathetic and that's going to talk you through it.
Let me ask this. So I know that all parents are different. Okay. So for me, 10 or 12 years old, I may think, and viewers and listeners may go, oh, Carrie, you're too old school. But that's a little too young for a cell phone, in my opinion. 12, you're getting right on the edge of it. What about a 7, 8, 9-year-old having these type of thoughts that doesn't have access to a phone? What type of resource? What do they do? And they don't want to.
Listen to this.
Okay.
The one thing that's really exciting right now that I've been really talking about is that social media is jumping on this bandwagon of really promoting mental wellness.
Okay.
And so, you know, and there is a rise in the amount of people who are using social media. And even if a kid does not have a phone, they have a social media account.
Okay.
So Facebook just launched this whole page on their site that if you mention any words that are
triggers,
you know, triggers or something, an indicator that something's going on and you might be suicidal,
okay,
they'll send you a message. And they have all these resources. And if you log out, when you log back in, those resources are going to be right there in your face.
Okay.
So they are trying to prevent suicide by getting people the help they need right now.
That's fantastic.
And if you are youth and one of your friends is, you know, has been talking about, you know, dying or anything like that, they have resources to walk you through how to talk and communicate with your friend and get them help. So I think this is just the start. Facebook does this, but this is just the start. I think Twitter and Instagram and Snapchat, all of them are going to follow because we want to lower the numbers. We want to prevent people from even having an attempted suicide.
Right.
And so this is how we do it. We change the culture.
Okay. Wow. I mean, it makes sense. And I'm not on Facebook. I didn't realize that they were doing that. This is fantastic. This is really fantastic. So you're saying that there's even resources out there that if I notice a friend of mine is starting to have this conversation, that I can go out and really learn how to communicate better with them.
Yes.
Okay.
Facebook has trained, they worked with people who have attempted suicide, researchers, psychologists, all these professionals to actually develop a comprehensive resource.
And excuse me, it seems that was more than likely due to, and again, I'm wondering, but it seems to make sense that a lot of people do communicate on their social media the signs and the indicators beforehand.
They do. They say
Okay.
4 out of 5 teenagers who've committed suicide had some clear warnings. So they've given some type of clear warning that they were feeling this way.
So 80% communicated communicated a clear warning, and now there are programs in place on the social media that knows to reach out to that individual.
Yes.
Oh
Yes.
my goodness. I'm so sorry. That is fantastic to hear. Okay, progress. What other things can we do to make one? I want to go back to the beginning. If I'm contemplating suicide, and this is which is very, very difficult to put myself in that situation. I've had some bad days of my life, especially former Marine and all that. And don't get me wrong, I've had some bad, ugly, dark days. But when I think of those dark, ugly days, I don't think of helping myself. I think of beating the what out of myself mentally. You're not good enough, and there's no reason, you don't deserve. All of those type of statements are in my mind or in someone's mind beforehand, which leads to it. So we know that there's a telephone number that is a standard number that you described. Anyone can reach out to, and depending upon how you answer questions, they're going to determine if this is an immediate crisis or if we're needing some counseling right here and there, okay, with some empathy and follow-up, and that's great. You're telling me that social media is starting to rise up and build in functionality that can identify and react. That's great.
Yeah.
Okay, that's great. What other mechanisms are available for someone that is having the thought? What else can they do?
You can reach out to a counselor.
Okay.
And people don't, culturally, I know in the Black culture, we typically do not speak to counselors. And I think that comes from, keeping everything within the family, that type of mindset, that old school mindset, but also not knowing what's going to happen in that counseling session. And I think that's important.
And it's confusing. I'm not a physician, but even going to a doctor, and, you need to see this specialist, and you need by the time I've got one symptom, I had to see 4 people. So you tell me to reach out to a counselor. What does that mean exactly? What am I looking up on the internet? What type of counselor?
You're looking for a counselor who specializes in whatever you're feeling. So there are counselors that specialize in vets.
Okay.
Specifically, and there's a whole team of resources just for veterans. You can put in veteran suicide, and you're going to get all kinds of resources.
Okay.
But you're going to look for someone who you can speak to. For instance, I'm a Black female. I realize that I like to speak with Black females.
Okay.
So maybe that's the person that I'm looking for.
Okay.
And I'm not afraid to put in Black female counselor.
So don't be afraid.
Don't be afraid to limit, the pool of who you really want. Who do you know that you feel most comfortable talking with? Because then it's a real conversation, and it's not the feeling of putting up a wall or not being able to be authentic with this person and actually talk about your truth and what you're going through.
Okay.
So you want someone that you can talk to. And maybe that person needs to look like you, or maybe they don't need to look like you, but maybe they need to have a background that's similar to yours. Maybe they need to be in an urban area if you grew up in an urban area. But look at those things, and look at the person's bio and what they say about themselves. If you pull up counselor today, they have every counselor out there. They have their bio, what they specialize in. Sometimes they have reviews on what people say about that person. You have to try a counselor on for fit, right? Just like you would buy a shoe. If it's too small, you won't get that shoe, right? And so try a counselor on for fit. If you go to a session and they're not working for you, you don't feel like you can really talk to that person, go to another counselor. until you find one that's the fit for you, a person that you can talk with and talk about the feelings and emotions that you're having. Because one of the things with the therapeutic process is establishing a relationship.
Okay.
And they have to establish the relationship with you so that you feel comfortable talking with them. But
You,
if you know up front that you're not going to tell them anything, why keep going?
you know, when I listen to all of this, and it really all funnels down to the dialogue that we're having is about if you are experiencing these type of thoughts, or if you know someone that is experiencing these types of thoughts. And I think that we've done a really good job of raising some awareness to how to get in touch and what that expectation or what type of expectation to have on a response.
Mm-hmm.
Now, let's talk about, and let's use me as an example. Carrie Bennett is going out into the community for the day. Whatever, I'm going to buy groceries. Something is taking me away from my home and out into the world. I'm at the moment not contemplating, but the question I'm presenting is, I want your opinion on something. If I'm out in the community and I'm moving about, and these are strangers, right? So I don't know the bulk of people moving around me, is I am under the impression that there is real power in my providing a smile, random acts of kindness.
Yes.
Is that something else that as a society that we can try to understand, that the kinder that we are to other human beings, the more we're actually helping prevent suicide?
I agree. I mean, if I sit next to a person and smile in the airport, they're going to tell me their life story. How many times do you get those kind of conversations? You smile
Exactly.
at someone and they tell you everything about themselves. Passing the other day, I went to the gas station. I wanted a coffee, and Wawa here is big for coffee. And they told me, don't pay. The person in front of you pay for 5 people's coffee. That
5
made
people.
my day. 5 different people that came into Wawa would get a free coffee because a person paid for them.
Yeah,
That's a little bit of kindness.
my heart tells me that as a society, we do have an opportunity. Look, we've got some polar issues happening, right? And when I mean
Yes.
polar, I am a white male. You said you were a black female. I am not
Yes.
talking about male versus woman, and I'm not talking
No.
about white versus black or any other grouping that people just really love clumping together. We've got issues that are so polar that families aren't even together on Thanksgiving anymore.
Right.
Right?
Right.
I mean,
Right.
that's the new joke, is that how many people do you start with at Thanksgiving dinner versus how many do you end with? Because
Right.
there's such a disagreement. And what breaks my heart about that is not disagreeing with you or you're disagreeing with me. It's how we're acting when we are in the process of disagreeing with someone or being disagreed with. Why have we become so defensive and less understanding?
Right.
I mean,
Right. And why we can't just let things go to get through the moment? Why is it such a big deal for us?
exactly. I mean,
Mhm.
hindsight's 2020 100% of the time. And I can think of days where I'm out in the world and having a really bad day and something happens, a fender bender, a flat tire, something outside of excuse me, outside of my control, wasn't on my schedule, and it happens, and it serves as the needle, or the what's the phrase, the straw that broke the camel's back.
Mhm.
And of course, the objective is push through it and forward motion. But a day or two later, when I look back at it, I feel so silly that I let something get under my
So
skin that
small.
much. Right.
Mhm. Mhm.
And I
Mhm.
have to stop and think, okay, if I go out and smile at someone, that's not going to alleviate their suicidal thoughts, the causes of what's
No.
leading up to it. Okay.
Mhm.
It's really not. But if I can do the inverse of being the straw on the camel's back, if I can take that one straw of weight off of their shoulders in that moment, I'm convinced that's a good thing. And I really just
Mm.
wish that as a society we would become more understanding and just nicer to one another.
I agree. I think bullying with youth is one of the biggest issues that cause some of the stress with our youth today. And if we can just be kinder to one another and embrace difference, our youth would be here. They wouldn't be so stressed out. They wouldn't be killing themselves at faster rates than anything. And they haven't even lived their lives.
And then on the flip side of that is,
Mm-hmm.
Dr. Tanja Coleman. You know her, right?
Yes.
Okay. Love talking to Tanja. Okay. She made the comment on her show with me that it is surprising. I can't remember what she said verbatim, but I remember the spirit of it. And it was along the lines of how surprising it is that when people get into leadership roles, that there are times where childhood, let's say, behaviors or trauma reveal themselves. And when I think about a 9 or a 10 or 11-year-old bully, it scares me to think that in the future they're going to be a senior leader at an organization with an impact on hundreds of lives, okay? Hundreds of lives. You have 20 employees, you're affecting 100 lives. And so how do we stop bullying?
Yes, we have to change the culture because, many employers have this bullying culture where it's okay for us all to gang up on people. That's that same culture that's in the school environment, doing it to youth. So we definitely have to change the culture to be more of support and kindness and welcoming of differences.
Okay.
And as adults, we definitely have to set the example because the kids are watching. So if we can't get along at Thanksgiving dinner and someone gets up, slams the door, pushes the food on the floor, that kid is watching that. And they're taking that back to school and doing the same thing.
So they're emulating what they're seeing from adults.
What they see, yes.
So if I get frustrated in my home at my vacuum cleaner or whatever as an adult, you're telling me that can actually inadvertently affect my child becoming a bully?
Or infect your child and how they respond to situations, similar situations.
Wow.
Their response.
Okay. So we need to be better parents. We need to smile more. We need to be more understanding, more compassionate, more sympathetic. And we need to know what the signs are. If we're not the ones experiencing the symptoms or the feelings of suicide, we need to know what the signs are. Talk to me about that. What do I look for?
Yes.
What should I be looking for?
Changing in behaviors. People who are experiencing suicidal ideation will change their behaviors. And I'm not just saying, today they're not coming for coffee. They will drastically change their behaviors. They will typically push themselves away from people and not do the things they normally have done. The things that brought them joy, they won't do those things anymore.
Okay.
You want to look for things like substance use.
Okay.
Because sometimes they turn to some type of substance, whether it's drinking more alcohol or doing opiates or something like that. They will turn to that as a cry for help, so to speak. You know, they may get a new circle of friends that is totally opposite of the type of people they would normally hang with. They would engage in
these. I'm sorry, these changes that you're describing, are they changes that, as a friend, that's something that I'm going to notice occurs over a more sudden period of time, let's say a week, a month versus a year?
You'll see a pattern.
Okay.
You will see an immediate pattern. So, for instance, I would say bowling because my dad is a big bowler. He just loves to bowl his friends. If he does not go bowling for like 2 weeks in a row and does not mention bowling, something is wrong.
Okay.
Something's wrong because even when he doesn't go bowling, he's trying to practice.
Okay. So really it's looking for the patterns.
The patterns.
Okay.
The patterns. And if you have a best friend, that was your best friend. You guys talk all the time. And then you look, 6 months, you haven't really heard from them. You talk to someone else that's friends with them. They haven't really heard from them. When you call, they don't answer. Something's wrong.
Avoidance.
Yes.
Okay. Well, I was on your, excuse me, I have got something stuck in my throat. I was on your website, and there's a lot of content there. So it's, www.thedrkey. I loved it. thedrkey.com. And I get on there, and there's a wealth of information about you, about Dr. Key. But what cracked me up almost immediately, and I know it's not a funny topic, but it did crack me up, and I think it's so appropriate, as I love the fact that you have a store on your website and you're selling shirts that say, "Are you okay?" And
Oh, yes.
you got this. So you can't see it right now, but I have a screen going for those that are watching, and I have those two phrases up on the screen. So if you get a chance, go check out this website, thedrkey.com. And I told my wife, look, I need to get, one of these shirts. Put on a shirt, says, "Are you okay?" Go out into the public, get my groceries, smile at everybody.
Right.
It's making a difference, right? In my own little way.
Yes. Yes. And the one thing that I would add to that is know what resources are in your community. If you don't know anything else, know what's available in your community. So
Okay.
that if you ask someone if they're okay and they're like, "Well, I'm really not okay, someone just died in my family and I've been depressed," you can say, "Look, go here, go to this support group, or contact this counselor. I heard
Okay.
that they were amazing." Have something readily available that you can give to them, because when they have that conversation with you, they won't know what to do next.
Well, and now there's a level of accountability. Now they owe a response.
Yes.
So you're
Yes.
okay. So that becomes another method to help prevent is not being afraid to have the conversation. In worst case scenario, they go, no, you're wrong. Something happened. I got sick, or they have an explanation that's true and that works. But are you okay? Basically is a question that now you owe me a response.
Mhm. You're opening up. You're opening up the conversation.
Okay.
People will stop you just because of that shirt.
I believe it. Are you okay?
Mhm.
And I liked how it had two question marks.
Mhm.
I struggle sometimes with question marks and exclamation points. Like exclamation points, you put one up, it's an exciting statement.
Mhm.
Some people, they get crazy with those things and just 4 or 5 in a row. Well, isn't that the same as one? That's what I always ask myself, not them. Man, I don't know. Am I a 5 exclamation point type of guy, or a 1, or do I just not do them at all? I don't know. But when I saw the shirt, it immediately struck me that there are 2 because question marks, because I feel that 1 would have been great. It would have been completely appropriate. But by putting the second one on there, 1, you don't see that often, so it makes you do a double take. But 2, immediately I felt that there was a heightened level of authenticity to it.
Yes.
Did you come up
That
with
was
that
the
one?
purpose. Yes, I came up with all of that. Because we can ask questions sometimes, like, you walk past somebody and you say, "Hey, how you doing?" You keep walking. That's because you really don't want them to answer.
Right? And we all have
I don't have time.
And now we're walking around with earbuds in.
Mhm.
We're just getting more and more isolated, and we're also trying to look perfect on social media. Let me tell you something there, Dr. Key. I am if you need to show anyone that you're speaking to what perfect does not look like, text me and I'll text you a picture of me. You know what I mean? I broke this tooth when I was 14, the hair grayer than it should be at my young age. Come on now. I'll be real, be authentic. Oh, thank you thank you so much for taking time to come on the show. Last question.
Okay.
Advice. What advice do you have to offer? Who is it to, and what is it about? If this is your platform to say one more comment to the world, what is it?
The one thing that I love to say,
and I put you on the
is
spot.
Yes, you did, because I was not prepared for this. But I love to tell people to take every cry for help as a cry for help.
Okay.
We can't determine what the intentions of that cry is, but we need to take it serious. I know oftentimes we'll say, "Oh, they're just doing that for attention."
What's
they
a crying
could be
wolf?
doing it for attention,
Yep.
but they could really, really need your help. So it's not for us to determine whether they need attention or not.
Okay.
It's for us to take action and help them.
Okay, that outstanding advice. Absolutely outstanding advice. Dr. Key, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate your coming on the show. Safe travels to Jamaica.
Thank you.
If you go to weigh your bag and there's a surcharge that shouldn't be there, don't unzip. No, If you see a little straw poking out of your bag, that's my breathing hole. So I'm coming with you.
I know those Marines have tactics. You probably could get in my bag.
If it has to be done, the Marines are going to do it. Dr. Key, thank you so much for your time, and safe travels, and have a fantastic day.
Thank you.
Viewers and listeners, that was Dr. Narketa Sparkman Key. Discussion about suicide prevention. Hopefully you're able to listen to this and really take something away from it, and if only have a more heightened awareness yourself. I am going to challenge everyone to smile more tomorrow, smile more today, and try to do good things. This world needs it. Until next time.
Thank you for listening to KMB Talk. You don't have to click home, but you can't stay here.